Okay, Cody knife. I tried one the other day and I really couldn't get my head wrapped around it, but I'll try again. It's a very odd shape, so it goes against the regular preforms that I make. I don't know if Cody knives had preforms specifically made for them, or if they were made from broken Cody styles, made from another point like a Scott's Bluff, or if they were made individually specifically as knives. If they were made specifically in this shape, then they would have to have some sort of preform, you would think. But I'm not sure if I'm going to make a preform. I'm just going to go straight for the shape. This is a piece of heat-treated Buffalo River. Buffalo River chert. I think it's heat treated up to 600 degrees. I don't know for how long. Technically, it doesn't need to be in the heat for longer than 1 hour. For longer than 1 hour. But I think some stones benefit from being left in the heat for days even. Not just hours, but days. So I don't know. I'm not an expert at heat treating this stuff. All I know is that this is really nice. That's all I know. And I think before I spalled it, it had 600 degrees written on it. This one has 500 degrees. Less heat. Buffalo, less heat, 500 degrees. To me, that's a lot more heat than I usually use. But for the guys that have kilns, pottery kilns, they can get up to 1,000 degrees, right? Or more. So it's not an issue. With me, with the little primitive turkey roasters, I can get up to 400 if I'm lucky. 450 if I have a good turkey roaster. That means I spent $10 instead of $5 at the thrift store. So you can tell I'm very low tech. Anyway, the Cody knife, oops, very cramped in here. The Cody knife is a request, kind of like a rock challenge. Someone is either having trouble making one or just wants to see it done. Okay, or both. So here you go. I forgot how old the Cody complex is. But it's old. It's kind of old. Late paleo maybe. I don't know. I can't remember. I should know these things off the top of my head, but I've had a few naps since the last time I looked at the Cody points. And I forgot to look just before this video. So if I make a mistake, it's because I didn't look. Not because I'm bad at this. Alright. So I'm just getting rid of the thick spots along the edges. Might as well do that now in the usual manner of zigzagging, using the previous flake scar as the platform for the next flake. And why am I talking funny? Because I'm tired. I haven't been napping all day, but I napped today, and then I got a stomach ache. Went for a walk, that made it a little bit better, but then I started straightening some arrows, some arrow shafts, got distracted. Still had the queasy feeling, so I took a nap. None of this is in the right order, by the way. I'm not telling the story in the proper order. Anyway, in case you're wondering why during some of these videos I'm a little bit more silly than usual. Alright. Alright, so it's thin enough now that I can start thinking about the shape. Now, it has a Scottsbluff type stem on it. Alright, so if I put the stem in on this side, going this way, I gotta, trim this base this way. But this is already slanted that way, so I can make this the back end of the blade and just trim off this part. Of course, I'm going to lose the tip, but it's okay. Right? Or, yeah, I'm going to have to lose the tip anyway, no matter what I do. This is kind of a weird area. I can't think about it too long because I don't have much. I want to try to do this in 30 minutes, so I don't have much time. Okay. Let me see. The back is longer. Yeah, I'm going to do this as the back. Okay. All right. So it's just a matter of shaping this now. It's already pretty thin. The Cody type points were not paper thin. They had some heftiness to them sometimes. Sometimes they were kind of thick. Sometimes not. I gotta make sure I don't thin this down too much. Like I said in the last video, it seems kind of odd, but after a while, it gets difficult to intentionally not make it thin. Believe it or not. Because sometimes you can take a flake, after you get relatively good at this, you'll take flakes like this flake here, the last one there, and really dig in deep, and you'll have to thin out the rest of it to make it level with that dished out or dug out area, and it ends up being very thin. So I can't do too many of those types of flakes, or else it'll be too thin, because I'll have to try to even out the rest of it. All right. The reason why it's difficult not to do this is because you've trained your mind and your subconscious to do those long, fairly deep, bold thinning flakes. At least theoretically. That's what you've trained yourself to do. You're supposed to anyway. If you're not training yourself to do that, you're not going to be able to make most points. Now, these are a little different mindset. The Codys and the some of the other older points are kind of thick. Okay. Alright, so I don't know if I should put the stem in now. Let's see. Let me dress up this. This edge is going to be cut off. Like it snapped right there. So let me straighten it out, and at that same time I'm doing that slanted blade edge, I can thin it down. Alright, at least the edge. I don't have to thin down the main body of the point yet. I'm going to do a final thinning pass at the end, which will give it that traditional or that characteristic Cody type of series of flakes. But that's not till the end. I gotta make sure I get set up for that final pass and not have too many step fractures and all kinds of weird stuff. Alright. Weird stuff being little pockets of islands and stuff like that. An island is just a compound step fracture where you've got step fracturing around it, around one area. So let's see. I'm not grinding before each strike. It would be better if I did. In a perfect world, yes, yes, yes. It'd be better if I was grinding before each strike. But I've got a good enough material and a good enough edge. It's thick enough that I can be doing this without grinding it. You see how I'm using the tool? I'm not using it like this. I'm kind of using it like that. It's brushing the edge mostly instead of digging in. Alright. So here in a minute I'm going to be focusing on shaping the stem first. Did they do it that way? I don't know. I think there's probably a good reason to believe they would do it either way, stem first or blade first. But I would tend to think the stem would be first because hitting on the bottom of the point really stresses this thing out. So you want to do that first. Well, it's still thick up here, so you're not messing it up with strikes to the bottom, because it'll snap in half if you have a really thin blade up here and then do the stem. Of course, this stem can be done with pressure. So whatever I just said might be thrown out the window if you're doing only pressure to shape this. But I'm using percussion because I can get better flakes with percussion. So that's what I'm going to use. Alright, so I'm still having an issue with this edge here. This cannot be parallel or the same direction as this edge. It's got to be slanted, so I got to dig in even further. This edge here has to be out this way from this edge of the stem. Okay. Which is counterintuitive to everything else that I usually make. What does that mean, counterintuitive? It means it goes against what you normally would naturally or instinctively or by habit think. You know, the lazy way of thinking is intuitive thinking. It's fast, somewhat reliable as far as being effective. But, you know, it saves you time. It can save you time, even save your life if you have to react quickly. But when making things, you don't always want to rely on your intuition, because you won't be able to get the right shape. And a lot of guys have trouble with the shapes. That's why they ask me to do this stuff. And it has a lot to do with what you're doing intuitively, or what your mind has taken over doing for you in the background, and it's not working. All right. Okay. Can Flintknapping give you insights into how the brain works? Of course, of course, of course. Yes, yes, yes. Can it give you insights in how the brain developed over time? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, what is it specifically? What is it? That I would need to sit down and take some notes so I don't mess up the video in my explanation. But long story short, you can see the sophistication of the human mind by looking at the sophistication of the tools, the stone tools especially, because they're well preserved. Nice stone tools are well preserved. I say nice because I think stone tools are cool. Obviously. Not necessarily because they're all nice, because some of them are very crude. When a Flintknapper says nice, you know, it means, ooh, fancy. Most of the time. But in this case, it just means cool. All right. Now I should probably form the base with some pressure flaking, but I think I can do the pressure flaking look with some percussion here. All right, just mild percussion, removing little bitty flakes. Can kind of make it look like pressure flakes. Now, was this, maybe this was done in the past like that, where you would do little bitty percussion flakes and fool the 21st century archaeologists and nappers into thinking they were all pressure. Yeah. Who knows? Alright, so I'm taking the very tip of the flaker, trying to get narrow flakes instead of those wide ones. How do you try for narrow flakes? You run the ridges a little bit more carefully, and it'll give you more narrow style flakes if you can do it. Me, I have trouble running the ridges because there's not always a ridge. The way I nap is pretty random. So that looks like I got Herculean strength, and I just did a row of very strong pressure flakes. Okay. On both sides. All right, so here we go. Just now is just a matter of, probably grinding this later. But now I need to regularize the edge on the blade, regularize the surface, and then take a final pass to get that nice Cody look to it. Does it have a special look? Yeah, it kind of does. That kind of Scots bluffish type of look to it. Gotta be careful because I can break this. This is a heat treat. Now, did they use heat treat back then? Talking paleo. Yeah, man, talking paleo. You're not supposed to heat treat. The next point I'm going to do after this is probably going to be a hell gap, right? Guess what? Well, a hell gap, if you don't know what it is, it looks like the Pelican and, Pelican and Lake Mojave had a baby. That's what a hell gap looks like. And guess what? It looks like a lot of them were heat treated. How do they know that? How would they say that? That it looks like heat treatment was common with the hell gap. How do they know? I thought paleos and that kind of stuff were not heat treated. Yeah, I'm not going to make fun of those guys. But anyway, it appears to be a point type made from heat treat because of certain characteristics of the stone. Changing color, a waxy look to it. Not these, but the hell gap. Waxy look to it, and changing color. That sort of thing. The easy markers on how to tell if it's heat treated. The flaking characteristics might be slightly different, but it's hard. That is harder to tell because it could be just high quality raw. The flaking characteristics are one of the hardest things to diagnose or to use as a diagnostic tool for the type of material that you've got. But if you have a changing color, that's a very good indication of heat treatment. Changing color from other stones in the area that are of the same type of material. All right. So I think that's how they're determining whether it was heat treated or not. Mostly. The changing color. Okay. I gotta focus on this because I got a boogery spot right there. Almost got it. I ran the ridge, but I didn't run it deep enough. And I don't want to go too deep into... I don't want to take a flake that's too big. But it's not responding to the little... There we go. If I take a flake that's too big and deep, I mess up the thickness. I want it to remain kind of thick for that final pass. The final pass might not even be that great, but at least I can set it up better than I normally would. Take a little more time to do this than I normally would, just because Cody points are very well thought out, very well made with lots of patience. As far as I can tell, the Flintknappers, the Cody Flintknappers were very patient, in my opinion. Okay, here we go. I'm going to take a big flake to clean up a bunch of this. Alright, hopefully indirect percussion is good for that. If it works, I might be able to skin that off with a different flake from another direction, but that's going to be tough. Let's see. I want to cheat and try to pick it off. All right, let's see. I forgot to take my pad out. Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can pick those step fractures out of there. Just pushing up against them. With a spatula tool. And if I can get them flatter, that's almost as good as getting rid of them entirely, because if I run another flake across there, it runs easier if it's flatter. Alright, so I can probably run another flake. This one should have gone further, but I don't know. I gotta hurry up here. Okay. Bumping into everything. I can make the stem longer if I want to. I can remove some off of this edge if I want to also. And I think it'll still look okay. All right. Less talking, more focus. But I need to talk about something, because then you guys won't fall asleep. Unless you fall asleep just to the chipping, but I don't think that's enough. Need a little bit of talking. That way you get bored out of your mind and fall asleep. Alright. So, oh man. I'm not good at pressure flaking, and there's proof right there. Okay. Let's try another not so good pressure flake. I don't know where that went. I think that traveled, but it was very shallow. Anyway, that's not good. Why am I doing these? At this stage, because I want to try to get the shape correct. I'm not sure if I have the shape correct. Let me see. I'm going to set up, I got to get this set up somehow for the next powerful percussion flake into this area to get rid of that series of step fractures. I think Cody points are known for their lack of step fracturing, if I'm not mistaken. Alright. I'm going to probably have to make this in 2 different videos, or, you know, tag on the second part. I wanted to try to get this all on one video, just like the Pelican, but oh well. This one's not nearly as easy as the Pelican point. Okay. And yeah, this gets clogged with stone chips into the steel. You know, stone gets embedded into the steel and it starts flaking funny, or not at all. You just gotta grind it out. I tend to use a brader on the steel when there's stone embedded in, because that stone will dull your file. I'm looking for that point. I dropped it. There it goes. All right, so here we go. I'm going to try doing a good flake, and then we'll continue on the next segment. Did I do it? Did it do it? Come on. All righty. Whew. Close one. Almost overshot that one. All right. Next segment.